Live from the Business Radio X studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and folks, we are broadcasting from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta, and today's going to be a great show. Shawn Yates is with us, and Shawn is going to talk about wasteful activities, something along the lines of Jeff Foxworthy and Legos. Yes, all three of those things. We've been through 900 shows, and we could not find one guest that could hit all three of those topics in an intelligent way. But guess what? Shawn can. Hang on, and we'll get to Shawn in just a second. But I want to remind you that if you're pretty fed up with your mega bank experience, if you're at one of those large banks, those mega banks, and they are really pushing you away in terms of wanting to deal with you personally, and you can feel that in all the little AI bots they have and all that kind of stuff. And guess what? Renaissance Bank loves to answer their own phone. Call them, you'll find out. And they love to deal with people personally. That's just where it starts. I have found the clients that I refer to Renaissance come back and tell me the bank is big enough to handle pretty much any need they can throw at them as a small business, but they're small enough to be personal and deliver their services in a personal way. Go to renaissancebank.com, find a local office, and yes, give one of those offices a call and see if a live person answers the phone. I think you'll be surprised and find out that they do. And that's just the first sign of where you need to be. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Shawn Yates. Shawn is with Praxis Leadership Solutions. Shawn, welcome.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Hey.
Super glad to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. I've been looking forward to this. Let's talk a little bit about you and give folks an overview of how you're serving at your own firm there, Praxis Leadership Solutions.
Yeah, it's a made-up word. It's based on the word praxis, which is an academic word. It means to take theory and put it into practice. And I just threw an X in there because Radio X just makes it sound cooler.
I love it. I love it.
Really
Very
awesome.
nice.
So my top line is I help companies get stuff out the door. I'm filtering for your radio audience. And that can involve new product development or delivery of existing products and services. There's three legs to that stool: process optimization, leadership development, and team building. You get those three things working right, you can get stuff out the door really well.
I look forward to digging into that. But before we do that, let's talk about your background and what in your background brings you forward to this work.
So it all started one day. Actually, it started at church one day. I was part of a small startup company called Care Technologies. And when I say small, there were three of us. So I invented the product line. I designed circuit boards, wrote software, wrote assembly language, and I invented a product. You remember the commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yeah.
I made a competitor to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
To that.
Okay.
And as I invented that product, we started to sell it, and then we grew a team, and I started to lead the team instead of do the hands-on engineering. So I was the VP of engineering for 10 years at that small company. Somewhere during those 10 years, I was walking across the courtyard at church, and somebody ran over and said, "Shawn, how'd you like to go skiing for free?" And this was here in Georgia, and I'd never been skiing because I live in Georgia. It's like, we're at church, so I know you're not lying to me, but define free. Apparently, somebody had called out for driving the van full of 15 teenagers up to Snowshoe, West Virginia, which if you don't know, it's like a 14-hour drive, 16-hour drive. They said, if you drive that van, Shawn, you can go skiing for free. I drove that van, and I learned on that trip how much I like to help others learn and grow, and I got into coaching at that point. When Phillips bought our company, then I was able to take that coaching hat and mentoring hat and combine it with my engineering hat. So then I ran around Phillips for another 15 years as an internal coaching consultant, helping people deploy things called Lean and Agile and Six Sigma, which are all process improvement. Anytime you improve a process, you've got to do team building and leadership development, because it's people that execute your process. So you got to have both sides. Then I did it externally for Siemens I was an external consultant for Siemens for about 5 years. And I've worked on just amazing variety of stuff. And Philips medical devices, CT machines, MRI machines, baby bottles, toothbrushes, coffee makers, just the huge variety of stuff. And I've gotten to touch all these different things across the time. So that's been super cool. After COVID, and here recently, just struck out on my own and working to build the business from there.
Yeah, wow. That's quite a background. You were also with the U.S. Air Force.
I did 6 years in the Air Force because in high school, I was really smart, but I wasn't focused. Let me say that. What I really want to say is, I don't know what we can say on the air or not. So,
well, we're not FCC regulated if that's what you're asking.
I was a screw off in high school. I was really smart. I could pass my tests in classes, but I didn't have to pay attention. And so I was disruptive, and military was awesome for me. It added some military bearing. It added some discipline. It's where I got my first introduction to TQM, total quality management, total quality maintenance, which is the precursor to lean. So actually, even before I had my first job, I was getting exposed to that. So yeah, I spent 6 years in the Air Force, worked on the C-5 aircraft, behemoth of an aircraft. You can drive two cars side by side through it.
Wow.
It's very cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So you have a lot of background, both in your military service, thank you for that, by the way, as well as your service in business, in terms of just the, I don't want to reuse the word process, but the daisy chain maybe is the way to say it. The daisy chain that you've got to knit together to get from where you're wanting to go to the finished either product or solution or whatever you're looking for, and how people fit into each part of that chain.
Yeah. What's the question there?
You've got a lot of experience in that, though, from a lot of different aspects, a lot of different products, a lot of different context, right?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of things from cradle to grave, if you will, the original idea. So even Carrick Technologies, that was an original idea. We put it together, we prototyped it, we productionalized it, we sold, serviced it. Did the same thing with portable defibrillators. That was a project that I ran in Philips, one of the first portable AEDs. How did we put that together? What was the idea? I listened to a 2-hour discussion on how fanfold paper will route through the machine. It was just intriguing. So yeah, I've seen a lot of different things and worked with a lot of different personalities and technologies, and both can be challenging.
I can imagine. So I guess maybe one of the places we can go with this is just to talk about the typical small business, because the typical entrepreneur I know, you may know a different set than I do, but the ones that I know, when you start talking about process, their eyes glaze over.
Yeah, there's definitely a risk that a lot of smaller business owners will put process off till the end. And there is a different kind of process at a startup. And I lived through this, right? There were 3 people at this company as we grew it, we ended up with 30 people and 5 million top line. At a smaller scale, it is more everybody does everything, or more people do more things. But nonetheless, you can start to write down, okay, maybe different people do it, but this one process, creating a PO. These are the 5 steps we're going to do to create a PO. And it sounds simple, but if I don't write that down, if I have 5 people, each one might make a PO slightly differently. So then I got 5 different ways of making POs. Or if I don't write it down, one person might do it 5 different ways, depending on how their brain is that day. So by writing down SOPs or standard operating procedures for even simple things, you get consistency, even at a small scale. But what it does is it primes you for large scale. If all of a sudden, my favorite partners are people that ramp up the sales side of a business, because once that sales side ramps up, oh crap, we got to deliver all this, right? It's creating the PO. If we wrote a 5-step process to make a PO, I could bring in a new person and say, here's the 5 steps. You need to sit down all day long and make POs. So there's a lot of fundamental process we can put in place. I like to say I right-size the process. When I go to big clients, I have big clients. I have some clients that are airlines. A lot of times in those places, I'm taking process out. I'm like, you guys are killing yourself with process. These 12 steps are redundant. Why are you doing this? And at the other end of the spectrum, I work with startups. I'm working with an MSA up in New York, and he's got no process. I'm like, okay, you need to add process. So we need to right-size the process based on the size of the business at the time. So there is too much process, there is too little process. We got to find that middle ground.
And one of the things that you say is that Small companies generally think process is one of these things that they put in later, sometime later, when they're quote unquote big, whatever their definition of big is. And it seems like to me that's just a way of kicking the can down the road.
And making it worse. This analogy just popped in my head of you can't start saving for having a baby once you have a baby. Like it is way too late at that point. The same thing with your company. Start with small processes, 5 steps for making a PO, 5 steps for sending an invoice, 5 steps for answering the phone. I don't know. And the 5 is really random. But start off, and then when you're ready to scale, maybe you add more steps. Maybe it gets bigger. But by kicking the can down the road, one day you're going to be like, why is everything a mess? Why do my clients never pay their POs on time? Because they all pay their invoices on time, because they all look different and they don't understand, or there's something in there. So kicking it down the road just makes it a higher cost later instead of a lower cost now.
Yeah, it's something along the lines of about, I think the last stat I saw said that half of all individuals that could go to the dentist don't, because for whatever reason, they don't see the pain later, visualize what that could be versus the ones that go regularly and pay a small cost now to avoid a big pain later.
Oh man. I can cringe just thinking about that. Root canals and everything else. Oh
yes. So that's really what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Make the small investment now. And I hate to call it pain, but if we must, but I try to not make it painful. I mean, that's where the Legos come in and stuff, but yeah. Invest in it now and it'll serve you well later.
Pardon the pun, building blocks, right? I mean, putting the building blocks in now as opposed to, and I would imagine, given your background, where you have come in to projects, to product lines that are fully mature, and you've probably seen a few things that you look at it, you say, it would have been nice if you would have done this process a little different early on. You've probably seen hundreds of things there.
I've done a lot of, I call them rescues and turnarounds. I know one, I came into a big department it was like a business within Philips. And I looked at what they were doing, and basically they were making a piece of software, and they had kicked the can of fixing technical debt, like fixing buggy code so far down the road because they wanted to release new features. But every time they released a new feature, it took them 3 more months to fix what they broke. So I came in, I looked at everything, and I got the leaders in a room. I said, listen, guys, here's what you need to do. No new features for 6 months. And the product person's head just exploded, brains all over the walls. Right. And I'm like, I said, I understand. I get why that hurts. But here's the thing. Every time you release a new feature, you tick off all of your customers, and then they're angry at you for 3 months, and it takes you 3 more months to fix it, and so on. If we just take 6 months now, get our architecture stable, fix our technical debt, then start releasing, we will release at a much faster rate.
Right.
And the customers will be happy. And long after they've forgotten how late you were, they will never forget how bad your quality was. So if you got to choose between those two, be late with good quality, and they'll forget how late you were. Yeah, I've seen many turnarounds. I've seen similar things on the people side where I come in and managers are either micromanaging, they're into the details too much and they need to back the heck off, or they're absentee. And they're out at the golf course because that's what managers do. They need to get a little more engaged and set some direction and give the team some boundaries. So both sides, on the technical side and the people side, I've definitely seen rescue situations.
Shawn Yates is with us, folks. He is with Predaxis Leadership Solutions. You mentioned Legos.
I mentioned Legos.
Let's talk Legos.
I know we're audio only, but I got a Lego shirt on. Thanks to a partner of ours, Ajit found this shirt for me.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. One of the tools that I use is a facilitation technique called Lego Serious Play. And when I joined it, it was a closed ecosystem, meaning you had to get certified to be able to say that you did it. So I like to say, I'm certified to play with Legos. So Lego Serious Play is something that Lego itself did invent. It is play, but it is very rooted in psychology and physiology and how our brains work at an electrochemical level. And it's a coaching / facilitation technique, and I use it for leadership development, for team building, strategy creation, and strategic problem solving. And what we do is we take what's in our brain and we put it physically in the world using the bricks. And once it's you might have heard before that if you can name something, you have power over it. If you bring something physically into the world, you have even more power over it. So you can see this model. And a lot of times somebody will build a model and I'll say, why is there a flower on top of that? And they'll be like, I don't know why. Oh, wait, I do know why there's a flower on top of that. And they'll assign a value to it. We can get into a philosophical discussion of did they assign the value because they asked the question, or had they assigned the value subconsciously when they were building? The answer is that I don't care, because they assigned it a value. I don't care when they did it. And sometimes they'll be like, nah, I just thought the flower was pretty. And that's cool. And so by putting this in the physical world, we can ask questions about it. We can manipulate it. And then, because some of the build prompts will be something like, build the 3 characteristics of a strong leader. And they'll build something. And I'll say, now position those close to you if you think you have it, or further away if you think you don't have it. And then we'll look at that. We call it a landscape. We'll look at that landscape and say, why? What would it take to move that closer? What would that be like? Or if we're doing team dynamics, we'll connect different team members' models and say, if you're connected, if Shawn and John are connected really strong, use a solid piece to connect it and put them close together. If we're not, then put them far apart and connect them with a floppy chain. And then this is the part that ticks them off. I'll ask about events that have happened, and they'll say, oh, so-and-so was out sick, and I'll grab that model and just pull it. And it moves everything in the landscape. But then I say, wait, after they gripe at me for a minute, look at the landscape and tell me how it reflects what happened in real life. They'll say, oh, these 2 people got closer together and that person fell off the table, and that kind of represents what happened. And you can see it playing out in the real world. So it's very interesting to bring it from our brains into the physical world and be able to manipulate it. And then from there, you get insights, right, of how the team works together, or if it's a strategy, how the strategy pieces will interact with each other and things like that. It's a lot of fun. And I just bring in a crap ton of Legos and we play with Legos. That's in itself very fun and creative.
So is this how does process fit into this? Or is this more of a leadership team building activity, Legos? Yeah,
so the 3 legs, process optimization, leadership development, team building, the Legos are more for the leadership development and the team building. I do those as a standalone as well, but usually it's more part of a package. We will use the Lego series play for strategy creation. What are the components of your strategy? But even that's a 4th leg if you want, but it's not really a process. It's more like, where are you trying to get to as a whole company? So yeah, this is more leadership development, team building when it comes to the 3 legs of my stool.
It strikes me, Shawn, that this is a literally good way to get something out of your head and that maybe would not show up otherwise.
Absolutely. And whether it's team dynamics or even leadership one-on-one, people will discover things in the model. Like I said, I'll ask, why is that flower there? And they'll realize something about themselves, about their teammate, about something. And when I use it for one-on-one leadership development, and I'll have somebody build something in response to, I'll build a model that represents the decision or the yes, no, or whatever. And I'll say, leave that on your desk for the week. And just next week, I'm going to ask you what happened because it was on your desk. And 90% of the time, they're like, I was staring at it and something occurred to me, or somebody came into my office and asked me. And when I explained it, I realized something comes from having a physical thing in front of you to look and think and capture your attention and focus.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess particularly when you're team building, this is a question, you are doing this in groups or pairs or what have you. You're doing Lego building together?
Yeah, there's different phases.
Okay.
The typical team building, I will have you build your 2 strengths and 1 opportunity. And then everybody gets a piece of paper with somebody else's name on it. And I say, build what you perceive their strength and their opportunity to be. And then we talk about that. And first off, you start to realize the difference between what you think your strengths and opportunity are and how your teammates perceive you. And then we build what's called the landscape. We connect all the people and put them together, build them. And then we talk about them. And we always talk about the model. We don't ever say, oh, this represents that John's a blockhead or whatever.
Although that could come into play.
It could be, right? I always say, my model represents, this model is, we always point and talk to the model. And there's a psychology behind that in a team dynamic. For the most part, nobody would look at John and say, John, you're such a blockhead. But they'll build a model because they're not filtering when they're building. And then when they're talking, as long as we keep them talking about the model, the filtering is also fairly minimal. And I'm shortcutting a half day to a full day process. We spend a lot of time building trust and being able to talk about these things in the open without fistfights breaking out, kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems to me that just makes so much sense because you're basically offloading what could potentially be pretty, maybe even explosive or divisive kind of situations onto Lego blocks, and you're taking that away from the interaction between two people or a leader in their team or what have you. You're putting it onto the Legos, and it just makes it easier to deal with the elephant in the room.
And Legos are a toy, so we're already in a playful kind of a mode. But now, mind you, if I'm coming in and there is a particular situation that Shawn and John are always bickering, I need to know that up front. And again, the building up to the stuff I'm talking about, we will have already ebbed away at some of that. And if it's really severe, I'll even have a one-on-one with each one of them, and then the three of us will meet and we'll talk. And so there's other pieces to this, depending how serious situations are. People's situations are fluid,
to say the least. Okay, so back to process. You say there are 8 wasteful activities that all leaders need to be looking for.
Yeah, and Shawn doesn't say it. It's part of the lean teaching, the lean methodology. There's 8 wastes, and they spell an acronym Tim Woods, although I think different schools arrange those letters in different ways. But the one I went to says Tim Woods. It's transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, defects, and skills. Each one of those has a digital connotation, like what does it mean if we're sitting at computers, and each one of them has a manufacturing floor connotation. It's motion, okay? So in a factory setting, motion is a operator, a person moving, bending, twisting, pushing, whatever. A physical person is moving. In a digital world, it's points, clicks, drags. Everything that you're doing on the computer, even I sit here watching you're doing stuff with your mouse. I ran an improvement process in a call center once, and we counted the number of clicks and keystrokes and alt tabs that operators had to do to handle a call. And it was some like 100 clicks and points and typing and all that. Wow. And they had to alt tab between different apps, and they were cutting and pasting and all this kind of stuff. And so we measured that, and then we came in, it was a big software development. We modified the software. We made it so they could have just the right tabs open based on the call type they were handling. So we made the software smarter to make it easier on the person. So we reduced the motion, the waste of motion. So for each one of those 8, there's a physical and a digital example. I've got a PDF on the website. People can download it, a little self-assessment and stuff like that. But it's a lens. And people say, Shawn, I found this waste. Is it overproduction or is it waiting? And I'm like, I don't care. They're just lenses to help you think through the process and look for the waste to remove. Nobody's going to score you on, did you categorize it correctly? Did you find it and remove it? That's the question.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So when you say lens, even more specifically, it's a magnifying glass. It helps bring things to the surface that you might ordinarily not think of. Yeah.
Because when you think about how many companies that have any amount of IT infrastructure, even if it's just a SharePoint or a Google Drive, how many copies of the same file exist? There's 27 copies of the same file, and which one's the latest one? Oh, I think Sally had it on her desktop, and now it's on this SharePoint, but there's 3 different SharePoints. That's inventory, right? There's inventory. How do we reduce the inventory? How do we streamline all of that? But yeah, it's a lens to make you think about it. You can't always get rid of all of them. The point isn't that you should have 0 movement. You should have 0 transportation. Transportation is the movement of the goods or digital files. So if things move, it's transportation. If people move, it's motion. You can't get rid of it, but you should always look at it and say, can I minimize it? How do I reduce it at least?
So with a nod to Jeff Foxworthy, who was famous for you might be a redneck if,
That's right? Love it.
You've got a take on AI. You might not be ready for AI if.
That's right.
Give a few ideas on.
So I can talk when I was just talking about it. If your idea of collaboration is emailing a file called mysheet.final.v2final, you might not be ready for AI.
That's a good one. I like that.
If your idea of a success metric is we'll know it when we see it, you might not be ready for AI. If your idea of innovation is updating the color on the status slide, you might not be ready for AI. So I've got 10. I've got 10 of those up on my LinkedIn. Yeah,
you've got 10. I want people to go to your LinkedIn and see those. But the point here is that I think you're trying to make, it seems like to me, is AI magnifies poor process in a way you don't want it magnified.
Just take out the word poor. AI magnifies your process.
One way or the other.
If your process is already crap, it's magnified, right? It 10x's, 100x's what you do. And if what you do is 80% waste, you just 100x'd that 80% waste. It's awesome. So when I do process optimization, so we map out a process, then we look for the 8 wastes, and then there's an acronym, but it doesn't spell anything, but it's ERCA. So eliminate. Can I eliminate that waste? Okay, if I can't eliminate it, how do I reduce it? That's the R. Okay, I reduced it some. Now can I combine it with something else? Combine steps. Only after I do all of that does the A, which is automate or AI, come into play. So you've got to do ER and C first so that you don't automate or AI the crap, the waste, right? Because you literally will waste energy and efficiency 100 times faster if you don't do these things first.
Wow, that's quite thoughtful. Shawn, what are the symptoms that are occurring in my business that I need to look at and think, I need to pick up the phone and call Shawn and get him in here to help me?
So I'm going to give you one that's a pre-symptom, because maybe you're doing okay, but if you bring in somebody to tune up the sales side of your organization and you're anything other than software that they just subscribe to, where there's no real delivery aspect, if you have anything else where you have to deliver what that salesperson is going to crank up, you might want to call me before you have these symptoms. So if you're tuning up your sales side, you might want to tune up delivery. But outside of that, if your clients are complaining, I just try to do this like the Jeff Foxworthy thing. This is made up on the spot, so if it sucks, it's bad. If your clients are complaining that you're later, that was going to be bad because I was going to make it. If your clients are complaining that you're late, you might need to call Shawn. I was going to make a reference, but I'm not going to.
I like that.
If your delivery is unpredictable, one day you're early, the next day you're 3 days late, then you might want to call me. I can help with that.
I've got one to offer based on what I heard you say. If you announce the next strategic planning meeting or leadership development conference that you're going to have for your team, and they start groaning.
That's right. That's right.
Because the last 4 were so boring, then maybe you need to call Shawn.
Right.
Let's play with Legos.
Let's play with Legos.
Yeah. How does that sound?
If your eyes roll at the mention of the next strategic offsite, oh, great. At least there'll be an open bar.
That's right.
If the open bar is the highlight of your offsite meeting,
there you go.
Then you need to call Shawn.
There you go. Okay.
And the other one is quality. So I know I didn't touch on it a lot, but Lean and Agile and Six Sigma are all about quality. So if you're delivering on time, but your quality is crap and you got to take months to fix whatever you tried to deliver, that's another call Shawn kind of thing. Quality is the not negotiable in my book. You always deliver with quality. Whether you deliver on time or not is what we negotiate.
Got it. So you have mentioned several, but I think it would be good. I want to give you an opportunity anyway to talk about another success story that helps illustrate the great work you do.
Let's see. I talked about stopping the bleed on the tech side. Let's see. And I did the portable defibrillator. This one's very recent and it sounds out of place, but I'm helping turn around a sales team. Not because I know anything about sales. If you guys are sales reps, don't come to me for this. But the problem was they just didn't know what to measure. And so I came in and looked at what they did and talked to them a little bit. I said, why don't we measure? So they got a cold call group. How many cold calls you're making a day and how long you spend on the call and what percentage of those lead to appointments on your calendar. So by measuring that, I was able to come up with some statistics for them. And then we were able to drive improvements. And we recorded and looked at the scripting. And then I brought in somebody who knows sales to help look at the scripting. But I'm a big one for just measure. Whatever you're trying to improve, measure it. And then we can make improvements on it. So that's another one. Like you said, I've already put a couple of them in the rest of the podcast here. But that's an interesting one to me because it accidentally came to me. And I was like, yeah, let me see what I can do. And it turned out pretty well.
Yeah. Wow. Shawn, this has been great. I can't imagine there aren't some folks that wouldn't want to be in touch having heard what you've had to share. So let's give them directions. How can they find you?
The website, Predaxis, which Predaxis.com. I know it's a made-up word, so I feel like I got to spell it, but it is pretty phonetic. Predaxis.com. And on LinkedIn, I'm Shawn Yates. There's probably more than one, so I don't know how to tell you which one is me, except that I think my thing says Predaxis. So yeah, reach out to Predaxis.com. You can download the 8 wastes for free on there. Under resources, there's videos, and there's a contact me. If anybody wants to email me directly, it's just Shawn, SHAWN, @Predaxis.com. And yeah, I'm pretty responsive. And if you're local, I love coffee and lunch and evening drinks. So
terrific.
Good for local networking too.
There you go. Shawn Yates, folks, with Predaxis Leadership Solutions. Shawn, thank you for the great work you do. We're delighted we could highlight it.
This was so much fun. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Hey, folks, a couple of quick things before we let you go for today. Here's one headline you don't want to be the subject of. Local business pays thousands in ransom after cyber attack. Yep, you don't want to be that headline. And that's where Beyond Computer Solutions comes in. They help organizations like yours stay out of the news and in business with managed IT and cybersecurity services designed for those companies that really need top-notch compliance and where their reputation really matters a lot. If you're dealing with HIPAA concerns, other secure documents that have regulatory issues, you've got to keep them secure. Beyond Computer Solutions is your go-to call. And I know that myself because they keep us digitally safe here, you might say, at North Fulton Business Radio. Chris Knowles and his team do fantastic work, and they start out with a complimentary security assessment. If you haven't had one of those in a while, here's your chance. Go to beyondcs.com to learn more and to be in touch, and tell Chris that we sent you. Also, I just want to remind you that if you are a solopreneur, small professional services firm, if you've got issues understanding your value, that you think your value is something you come up with, it's really what clients perceive. If you're having trouble pricing, if you're having trouble positioning your services, I've written a book just for you. It's called The Generosity Mindset, a journey to business success by raising your confidence, value, and prices. You can go to thegenerositymindset.com to learn more and learn where to buy the book. And if you are in the local North Fulton region, you can go to Barnes & Noble over on North Point Parkway, and they have signed copies of the book on the shelf. So you can go pick one up there. Also, we just passed 900 episodes of North Fulton Business Radio, and we've only gotten this far because of you. You have kept us, you're the wind beneath our wings, if you will. And if you're listening to this show, you support us, and I appreciate you for doing that. You share the show on social media, you send us great guests, and support us in so many different ways, and we couldn't do it without you. You help us to live into our mission to be the undisputed voice of business in the North Fulton region and beyond, and for that, I'm grateful, and I just want to thank you. So for my guest, Shawn Yates, I'm John Ray. Join us next time on North Fulton Business Radio.